Hello everyone, Bashrop here, and today we'll learn how to make stairs and ramps. When we built the second floor in the red barn, accessing it was simple, but in most buildings this won't be the case. So today we'll learn how to build stairs. Once again, I will use coffee tables. If you want a smaller, cozier looking staircase, you could use the stools, but this will be a lot more expensive. I will stick to the tables. The binding glitch is all we really need to build stairs as well. However, to make them nicely aligned, we could use a slightly easier way to shift our furniture up or down. This is easily achieved by stacking multiple pillows on top of each other, with the top pillow being the one we bind the table to. To move furniture up, just pick up the top pillow, which should raise all bound furniture to the same height. To move furniture down, just pick up any of the pillows placed under the top pillow. One downside of using pillows for vertical alignment is that not all pillows are the same size. For vertical alignment, it might be better to use something like rustic storage boxes instead, as they are always the same size, and you can still bind most furniture to them. You could also combine them by stacking rustic storage boxes for vertical alignment and placing a pillow on top of them for binding purposes. The first step is building the first 3 steps. The third step is essentially just the base table with no vertical alignment needed. The second step needs to be lowered roughly by 1 box, and the bottom step needs to be lowered by 2 boxes. For all other steps, we would have to shift furniture up, but we don't actually need to do this. Instead, we can just bind the table to 1 pillow on the ground, place it 2 steps away from the top of the staircase each time, and the alignment will just work out when we attempt to place it on the staircase. The stairs don't necessarily have to be straight, so feel free to experiment with the angles. You can make some nice looking spiral staircases, though you're mostly restricted to storage boxes for steps, as the legs on tables would prevent you from climbing the stairs, and even storage boxes are not perfect, as they're just a little too thick to be climbed smoothly, but those spiral staircases sure do look cool at least. Climbing up might sometimes be an issue with regular coffee table staircases as well. Alternatively, you could use ramps instead of stairs. While ramps might not fit the aesthetic of a cozy home as much as stairs do, they have several advantages. The most obvious one is that moving up and down is a lot smoother than with stairs. They're also a lot cheaper and easier to build. What took us 15 or 20 tables to build a staircase will now cost 3 or 4 for a ramp. Lastly, you have much more freedom in choosing how steep the ramp should be, and you can make it surprisingly steep and still be able to climb it easier than stairs. You could say ramps are a step up from stairs. Anyway, in order to build ramps, we just need to connect tables in a row and rotate them. The big question is, how the hell do you rotate furniture? You know about the pillow, now get ready to learn about the mighty floppy disk. Floppy disks can be placed both on floors and walls. Rotating furniture is very simple, just bind it to the floppy disk, then place the floppy disk on the wall and rotate it, which will rotate all furniture bound to the floppy disk as well. There are a few items that can be used as a substitute for the floppy disk, such as shelves, but I like the disk because it's extremely light, making it easy to carry around as a tool, and it can be placed fully on the ground, which makes it easier to bind larger items to it. That's pretty much it. Once the tables are rotated, we can move the ramp via the binding glitch and align it in other directions if necessary. The floppy disk can actually be used for a more free vertical alignment as well. Just think ahead about what you want to do, otherwise the disk or any of the attached furniture you may want to reposition or pick up will be hard or even impossible to retrieve. When binding furniture to the disk, just think where the wall will be in relation to it. The disk always touches the wall with its front edge and sinks about halfway into it. When building ramps next to a wall, this usually means you just want to place the disc on top of the would-be ramp, make sure it's not bound, and then bind everything to the disc. When placing it farther away, you may need to use furniture or other objects for measurement purposes to ensure the placement will be correct. Or just rotate the furniture wherever and then bind the rotated furniture one by one to a pillow and reposition with the binding glitch. And maybe the best way is to actually use shelves if you have access to some. For vertical alignment alone, their inability to be placed off walls, normally a weakness, can be turned into their strength. Placing a pillow on one of the wider shelves still lets you bind some furniture to it. This way, you know whatever you bind to it will maintain the same distance to the wall the shelf is on, no matter what, and you only control movement in two directions. If floppy disks don't seem awesome enough to you yet, know that you can also use them for item clipping in ways even the mighty pillow doesn't allow, such as clipping some furniture partially out of bounds or through walls. As long as the furniture is bound to a floppy disk and you're attempting to place the disk on a wall, the placement will always be valid, no matter what you're trying to do, so get creative, but think ahead and use it responsibly, as clipping items through like this can mean certain objects will be unreachable forever once you unbind them from the disk. Just like pillows, floppy disks are not too difficult to find. Most regions have at least one, with some areas having several just lying around. Combining the binding glitch with useful wall items such as floppy disks and rotating 90 degrees, we can now create walls too, allowing us to create completely new rooms in existing safe houses. For this specific purpose, there is a more useful item than the floppy disk though. Time to introduce the mighty horseshoe. The horseshoe doesn't function too differently from the floppy disk. It's an item placeable on both floors and walls, and is a versatile parent. But the way it snaps to walls is different from the floppy disk, as it actually rotates 90 degrees while the disk doesn't. And you can see where I'm going with this. This is perfect for wall placement. By default, the horseshoe snaps to the wall with its toe side to the right. Knowing this helps position the horseshoe correctly when binding furniture to it, but if you place it wrong, you can always rotate it manually when moving it to the wall. The main downside to the horseshoe is that it's quite rare to find. To my knowledge, there are only 4 horseshoes, with one of them being unreachable without you actually building some sort of a ramp, as it's placed very high. But it's worth the effort, and together with the pillow and the disc, it's one of the most important tools for building, and you can always carry your trusty horseshoe around, just like you do with woodworking tools. Now that we know how to build ramps, we can build and access second floors even in smaller, cozier safe houses, such as the Trapper's Hut, which I will be using today to show off how to build a second floor and a ramp, even when there's not much space. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.